Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Harold, the founder and creator of Go Be Great. I'm excited to be with Andrea Leonard's group, CT, the Cancer Exercise Training Institute, and share some strategies and concepts with you to amplify the healing process that's available to us in fitness and exercise training protocols as we move through the cancer experience. Tremendous amount of stress in the patients and the families of folks who are moving through these challenging times. One thing that we know for sure is that their respiration rates, their breathing rates are disruptive due to the amount of stress that folks are under on a daily basis. How can breath control and breath regulation help amplify the healing process that needs to take place in the physiology of the body and the psychological states of the mind? When we look to the breath, we're first looking to nostril breathing. Nostril diaphragmatic breathing is the most effective way to respire the cells of our body, to distribute oxygen, to circulate alkalinity, to bring our heart rate and blood pressure under control, to stabilize the spine and our movement patterns in exercise so that we're not creating strain on the parts of the body that are required to heal us as we move through these transitional times. Remember, we're all born nostril breathers. As soon as the baby's mucus phlegm is cleaned out of the nostrils, the child begins to breathe on its nose, not its mouth. This is the genius of our DNA. Mouth breathing creates instability. It creates higher heart rate. It stimulates sympathetic activity in the upper lobes of our lungs. All of this interferes with the healing process. When you think about like every horse that has won the Kentucky Derby, they win the race doing the whole race breathing through their nose. The cheetah, the fastest animal on the planet, achieves its prey breathing through its nose. Only humans can override this natural organic process and begin to breathe through our mouth. So when we're working with folks with high levels of stress and we have the physical impairment of a cancer diagnosis, we need to reestablish nostril diaphragmatic breathing. So important. When you think about how we breathe, we have this air that comes in through the nostrils, stimulates the 12 cranial nerves, which are outside of the forebrain area, and helps prepare the mind and the body for the present moment. So it has a calming effect rather than a stressful effect on how we're going to interact with the moment. When we breathe through the nose, the brain secretes this amazing molecule called nitric oxide. And it's a natural anti-inflammatory agent that reduces mucus, phlegm, and fat through the alveoli sacs of the lungs where we exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. It removes it from the internal walls of our organs where disease and bacteria, virus, cancer can live. So using the body's natural healing mechanisms begin with this nostril inhale to stabilize the brain and create an anti-inflammatory response without us doing anything. The body's going to do this on its own. It's a healing platform. When you think about trying to remove waste and toxins from the body, did you know that 80% of all of our waste are removed through the lungs on our exhale? The remaining 20% is removed through evacuation of the bowels and urination and sweat. So our primary way of reducing inflammation, mucus, phlegm, fat, particles, foreign invaders, is to exhale through our nose. Notice when you exhale through your mouth, it's a very short expulsion. You're not getting out all the stale air. You're not completing that moment. And it creates stimulation in the amygdala of the brain, which is kind of the fight and flight emotional headquarters of, do I feel safe in this moment or do I feel unsafe? We want to produce safety. How do we produce safety in the brain? Well, you consciously exhale longer than your inhale through your nose. This will create a relaxation response in the brain. The lower animal brain will turn off. The higher cortexual regions of the brain will turn on. The brain senses safety, and in that safety, the body will naturally metabolize its fat stores as our primary fuel. And we know that the cancer disease is alive in our fat cells. It's not stored in our glucose or sugar cells. So as fitness professionals, our primary goal is, number one, to take care of our heart rate and blood pressure. Number two, remove toxicity and circulate more alkalinity through the cells of our body. Let's demystify this fat burning thing that we hear so much about. If you breathe through your nose and you exhale longer than your inhale, you will burn fat. So in the most simplistic terms, if you need numbers, if you inhale for a 3 count and exhale for a 4 count, you're burning fat. Even better, if you inhale for a 3 count and exhale for a 6 count, even better. If you inhale for 3 and exhale for 9, you're in a fat burning zone. And this is huge because fat is an endurance fuel. Glucose and sugar is a fight or flight, quick burst of energy of adrenaline and cortisol to either get prey or not become some other prey. So getting us aligned with this getting ourselves aligned with this nostril breathing, super important. Remember that respiration rates are going to equal heart rates. The person who wins the race is probably the person who's taken the least amount of breaths. The person who comes in last is probably the person who takes the most breaths per race. So respiration rates, breaths per minute, is going to reflect our heart rate. Our heart rate is going to reflect our blood pressure, healthy or unhealthy, alkaline or acidic, toxic. When we have control of the heart rate and blood pressure by controlling our respiration, this affects neurochemistry, either getting information in our mind from our lower animal brain or our higher enlightened peaceful brain. And when the brain senses safety, the body is going to burn fat. And this is just a simple tool that we can all add to our fitness routines so that we're promoting health, wellness, performance, healing, rather than doing a lot of traditional Western training, which might not actually be the most optimal way to respire our clients where they are today. We want to take care of the heart rate. Remember, nobody's dying of muscle cancer. People are dying of organ cancer. When we begin to breathe more efficiently, we're going to strengthen the primary muscle of inspiration, which is the thoracic diaphragm muscle. And just basic physiology, when we breathe through the nose, the diaphragm is going to vertically press down towards our low back, and it creates stability and posture in the spine and improves motor patterns. As we strengthen that inhale and the diaphragm becomes stronger, thicker, has more range of motion, we activate the enteric nervous system of the belly, where we have 90% of our serotonin, and 50% of the dopamine is in this enteric system. And this allows our organs to remove toxicity and come back with more vitality. Also, the microbiome of the gut plays such a huge role in its conversation with our conscious and subconscious brain. So we can slow down that inhale, amplify the phrenic nerve, which is the primary motor nerve for the diaphragm, and this becomes more efficient. We're doing many, many things for us so that we become more efficient in our conscious waking hours. And when we become more efficient in our conscious waking hours, our unconscious hours are filled with deep delta waves, and we can get a restful night's sleep, allow the brain to reorganize itself, and let the body rest in our ultradian and circadian rhythms of the body, which play such a huge role in rhythm. And remember, rhythm and momentum are everything to our mental state. It's so important that we feel good. As we improve the quality of our inhale, we begin to really allow the rib cage to become super elastic. There's major lymphatic ducts in between these ribs. And as we can stretch more air in and out and the ribs expand and contract like an accordion, we're naturally stimulating lymphatic fluid. And this lymphatic fluid plays a huge role in helping our digestive system evacuate waste and toxins that no longer serve us, and we assimilate our energy faster through our liver and gallbladder, which gives us more energy with a lower heart rate. We want folks to have big energy, but a calm, resting heart rate. And it begins by having more fire in our belly to burn away toxicity from our gastrointestinal organs. Anytime you improve respiration, you're going to improve digestion. And when digestion improves, 70 to 80% of our immune function, our immunity, comes from a collection and collaboration of these organs. So we improve respiration, we improve digestion, we amplify immunity, we take care of our heart rate and blood pressure, and we're well on our way in setting in motion organically the body's natural healing process. Remember, the body is always trying to heal itself and bring it back into homeostasis, in balance, regardless of what we're thinking. The body is its own macro sense organ. And when we can work with the diaphragm muscle has so many different responsibilities. I like to classify it as an organ due to the responsibility it has to our motor patterns, to our physiology, to our biochemistry, and above all, to our psychology. So as we begin to work with this diaphragm muscle, many, many good things begin to happen for us consciously and subconsciously, and we begin to harness that energy of stress in a positive way for personal growth and sustainable health and growth, rather than sensing stress is bigger and better than us and forcing us back in the corner in life, and we're taking all these punches of the what ifs and the shoulds and the coulds and the woulds, and you're just feeling a lot more vitality to work with rewiring the brain, creating neuroplasticity. There's all sorts of different ways that we can strengthen inspiratory muscles of inhale and expiratory muscles of exhale. There's thousands of different ways to take air in and force carbon dioxide out. Just sitting quietly here, if we take a deep breath in diaphragmatically through our nose, we allow the belly to swell first, and then we take the breath up to the collarbone, and we hold the breath in several seconds. You'll notice right there, you're strengthening inspiratory muscles. In that stillness of stopping the breath after the inhale and before you exhale, notice your mind becomes still and silent. And if there's an intruder to your peace in your mind, you can override that in that moment of stillness and silence and place your attention and free will where you want your mind to be. You can exhale slowly. Hold the breath out several seconds. This will also stop the mind. And in the holding out period, we're taking stale air tissue out of the body, and the brain is incinerating that as fuel in that moment. So you're removing stale air out of the alveoli sacs of the lungs, out of the body. And then on your next inhale, you've got all this area of your body receiving all this fresh energy. So important. Earlier, I was speaking about exhale. You know, exhale predominantly is about CO2. Unfortunately, the primary mode of breathing in fitness is inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. It's a very shallow process. The exhale comes out quickly. You're not getting that full exchange of carbon dioxide. As you exhale through the mouth, you lose the movement of the diaphragm. We lose the steadiness of our lower body mechanics. We impair lower body mechanics, especially the low back. So letting that air come out slowly through your nose. Remember, we're exhaling just as much air as we're inhaling. It's called CO2, O2. There's just as much oxygen on your exhale as you have on the O2 of your inhale. And we want to harness everything in our environment for internal cleansing and healing. So during the exhale, you've got this wonderful carbon that's going to burn away waste. You've got this O2, and you want the air to come out slowly. Complete the exhale. Stabilize the brain. Practice exhaling longer to get toxicity out of your body. And the longer you can exhale without raising your heart rate, the more the brain is harnessing the O2 that's in the CO2. It's adding it to the 2 oxygen molecules you have on the next inhale. And you're circulating more alkalinity, fresh oxygen, minerals, and nutrients through the parts of the body that are calling for this energy. So staying with the exhale, building up CO2 tolerance, allowing the brain to extract the oxygen out of the exhale and adding those 2 oxygen molecules to the next inhale, and you've got twice as much more energy to fulfill personal self-awareness and healing. When we think about breathing, it can be done slowly, which is basically an anaerobic type of breathing. It's a strengthening of inspiratory and a strengthening of expiratory muscles. The primary muscles of exhale are in our belly. There are sit-up muscles. We have our 6-pack abs, we've got our obliques, we've got our transverse abdominis, we've got our rectus abdominis. Well, these are the primary muscles that we utilize in removing waste in the body and exhaling waste out of our mind. And when you can really get control of your exhale, controlling it is so important to getting the waste out and then stabilizing yourself for your next great inhale. One of the ways that we can really explore getting more out of less is to breathe through your nose, but also allow yourself to contract the epiglottis on top of your trachea. This is a little piece of cartilage that allows us to valve the ingoing and outgoing air so that we can control 3 things: the length of the inhale, the length of the exhale, the depth of the inhale and the depth of the exhale, and the pace of the inhale and the pace of the exhale. We want these numbers to grow. We want to have a long inhale. We want to have a long exhale. And when you're breathing through your nose and you valve the air through the throat, you're going to be taking less breaths per minute. When you can get your breath under 10 breaths per minute, your body's in a natural healing state. It's in a parasympathetic dominant autonomic response. When your breath is over 10 breaths per minute, you are in a sympathetic action. A little bit of sympathetic sympathetic activity is good, but a lot of it, we run on too many RPMs. The heart rate's too high. We need to take care of our organs. So the longer that inhale, the reflection of that will be you'll have the ability to valve the air through your throat and have a longer exhale. And that longer length in time will mean less breaths per minute. When we're talking about depth, how much of this healing energy that's all around us can you inhale into your body before you can't inhale anymore? How much depth can you have to your exhale? How much can you remove toxicity, acidity, mucus, phlegm, fats, bacteria, viruses from the internal world? We want to have a rich, full inhale, always trying to bring more fresh energy in the body. And we always want to try to remove waste products as much as we possibly can from the body. So the depth of this is a great practice. And the more you consciously try to add more depth, in other words, inhaling maybe 5 or 10% more, exhaling 5 or 10% more, the more it will happen subconsciously for you without you telling it to occur. Because most of the time, when we're not fully present, the subconscious brain is running the show. The most important part of length, depth, and pace is pace. You'll notice the pace of your mind, the pace of that film you're watching right now in your head is closely linked to the pace of your breathing. When your breathing is rapid, the pictures of your mind are moving very fast, and sometimes it's hard to have heart-brain coherence and be in the film interacting with yourself. When you're breathing slower, you'll notice the thoughts are a little more stable. There's a little more rhythm to the thoughts. They're not short, bumpy, jumpy little statements, and we're being pulled into all these different distractions and distortions, and we're separated from our heart. So slowing down the pace of the breathing in fitness is a great way to help raise personal self-awareness in the brain, or sometimes it's called neuroplasticity. You can change how you feel about any event, behavior, habit, perception that might have been the norm for you before we get into the exercise routine. So controlling the length, depth, and pace. You'll take care of the heart rate and blood pressure. You'll burn fat as your primary fuel. You'll have a greater ability to control the mind. There's a way to aerobically breathe through the nose. And this is a huge tool so that you don't have to mouth breathe. When you get in the states where you feel like there's a shortness of breath, rather than hyperventilating through your mouth to get from point A to point B to get your heart rate back down, we can teach you how to breathe through your nose quickly, 2 or 3 rounds. This will get the carbon dioxide levels down quickly. This will allow the brain to feel safe enough again because you're getting more oxygen in on that inhale very, very quickly. You're not breathing through your mouth, so you're having a parasympathetic response even though you're breathing through your nose quickly. It's impossible to hyperventilate through your nose. There's just too much tissue that the brain has to travel the air in and out with for it to be called hyperventilation. So moving away from the mouth breathing and exercise is huge when you're working with folks that are dealing with cancer, because we can't afford higher heart rates. We can't afford to fire off the HPA axis in the brain, that hypothalamus pituitary adrenal action, which just shuts down immunity. It stops digestion. The brain is on full alert for danger, and all the energy's out in our muscles and legs. And this is where we need energy to take place, not out here per se. We need that diaphragm to work like a plunger. Inhale, pressing down. Exhale, pressing up. And the stronger and more range of motion we can have with this diaphragm, the greater every other system is going to communicate to its sister and brother systems. So getting control of the breath, whether it's slow or fast, paying attention to length, depth, and pace, the ocean sounding breath in your throat. So you're creating a dual filtration system, which is natural and organic to the body. You've got the cilia and villi in the nostrils, these little turbinates that filter out impurities from our environment that we can't see with our eyes. When you add another layer of filtration by contracting the epiglottis at the top of the throat, you've created a dual filtration system to keep outborne pollutants and foreign invaders outside of your body. When you mouth breathe, this doesn't occur. The air comes right into the lungs, and whatever's in your environment, you're going to have to deal with it. When you breathe through your mouth, you don't get the vertical and upward and downward movement of the diaphragm. It just flattens east and west. We lose our lower body mechanics. The heart rate spikes, cortisol and adrenaline floods the system, and this is not the most optimal way to heal the body because we're going to be running on too many RPMs. We're going to be flooding the brain, flooding the body with these fight or flight hormones. We want to turn the HPA axis off, and we can turn that off by showing the brain that we're safe by controlling our breath. And when we lose our breath control, notice we've lost the ability to control the conscious moment. There's so many other ways that we can channel the energy into different places of the brain and the body. Alternate nostril breathing is a wonderful tool to sync the two prefrontal cortexes, create a molecule called anatomine, which is a cross-lateral molecule, which allows the right brain to talk to the left brain to talk to the right brain. It strengthens the electrical current between the corpus callosum, which is a series of matted nerves, which has given us basically two different brains in one head. One is a logical part of the brain, the left prefrontal cortex, and the right side of the brain is our intuitive, our creative, our curious, our new idea part of the brain. And we can strengthen this with alternate nostril breathing. We can work with whole brain messages. And whole brain messages are just the most amazing way to deal with the stress from yesterday and transform it today and make tomorrow better. Alternate nostril breathing is also a wonderful tool to do in between sets, to do in between intervals in cardio. So you've got your heart rate up, you pause in between a set or an interval, and you alternate nostril breathe. Your heart rate's already up. You're only going to breathe through one nasal channel at a time. This is going to strengthen that nasal channel. It's going to open your sinuses. Anatomine is going to be secreted. And this is a great molecule for whole brain messages. Also using the alternate nostril breathing is going to create norepinephrine. And this is a molecule that allows us to have that 0-point focus on the goal that we want for our clients. And when there's strong norepinephrine in the brain, we're not easily distracted by noises outside of ourselves. We're not taken away from our original intention of what we want to occur in this run or this set or this yoga posture or whatever it may be. So the alternate nostril breathing is a great way to allow the mind to become more reflective rather than reactive, while at the same time, it's a powerful tool to amplify cardiovascular function without moving the body a lot to create that advancement in cardiovascular health. There's different ways that we can apply breathing that also helps us get a restful night's sleep. We need our clients to be dynamic. Now, if they're tossing and turning all night long, there's going to be that mind chatter, and you can't quiet the mind, and there's so much fear as we move through the transition of the medical interventions. So making sure your clients have a good night's sleep is huge. When you look at our nostrils, they're wired for either activity or self-regulation or non-excitatory neurochemistry. When you think about the left nostril on the inhale predominantly secretes parasympathetic energy, and the right nostril on the exhale is parasympathetic, cooling, serotonin, dopamine, rest and digest, remove toxicity. The right nostril on the inhale is sympathetic. The left nostril on the exhale is sympathetic. And this is where we find that high edge energy, that vitality, all of the adrenaline and cortisol that we need to keep ourselves going, but not going too hot. We don't want to overheat the system. Now, this system here alternates every few hours on which nostril is going to be more efficient and which nostril is going to be more deficient, basically based on what season we're in. When you think about sleep, we want to bring up parasympathetic activity. Serotonin has always been a prerequisite for melatonin. The issue with melatonin is it's only secreted for 4 hours every 24 hours, generally for most folks from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if we can use different alternate nostril breathing techniques to only stimulate parasympathetic activity at night, we can fall back asleep within 5 to 10 breaths when we've awakened in the middle of the night, when our melatonin secretions stop. We can bring up serotonin secretions and you'll fall back asleep. You'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're ready to take on the challenges of the day. So there's so many different ways that you can incorporate breath control to optimize what you're doing. Number one, for yourself, for your life, saving yourself first, being as dynamic as you can be in your cellular body, in your mental mind. And then once you have the kinesiology and the kinetic effect of this, then you can go out and share it with your clients. And this is going to separate you from many of the other clients or trainers in your field who do not have the foundation of breath control. Breath control is the first thing that we should have been taught as trainers, as mentors, as facilitators, as healthcare practitioners. But it's something that we're picking up along the way. So timing is everything. I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to speak with you today. I wish you nothing but the best. I look forward to hearing from you. My name's Eddie Harold, and as always, go be great.